Someone comes to our door and greets my son. He does not look up. He does not answer the way that you meant to, and I feel it. The urge to nudge him, to smooth it over and to make him easier for the world. For a long time, I thought that it was about him, but it was about me. My son is autistic. He cannot bend himself to make the room more comfortable, but I can. I've done it my whole life. I go quiet, I make myself easy, I become whatever keeps me close to people. And for years, I didn't even know I was doing it. He cannot hide himself. And standing beside him, I began to see everything that I hide. Luca was 9 when he was diagnosed with autism. Before that, my husband and I had already tried so many ways of parenting him, so many approaches to discipline. We would learn a new method, commit to it fully, and work at it for months. Of course, we love him deeply. We saw ourselves as open and innovative parents, the kind who would surely find a way. And still, there were long stretches where we felt completely defeated. Why was none of it working? Why could we not get the hang of this? Then came the diagnosis. And so much of what we had lived through began to make sense. But understanding something with your mind does not undo the years of our own responses. I want to be honest about the timing here because I think people need to hear it. Luca is 18 now. So since the diagnosis and trying different approaches, it's a further 9 years down the line. And that is how long it took me to figure out how to change my own patterns. I share the length of it, not to say that it has to take that long. It does not. I'm hoping that by naming what I walked, I can shorten the road for others. What has surprised me most in these years is how deep my own conditioning goes. Because as parents, we carry pictures of how our children should be, how they should speak when they're angry, how they should carry disappointment. And some of that matters. Living alongside other people ask us to be considerate and respectful, and I hold those boundaries. And this is not about parents, it's about being a child, because we all come from that place, and that is where our deep patterns and conditioning formed. But I began to notice something in myself. Often my discomfort was not because Luca was being unkind, unsafe, or truly disrespectful. It was quieter than that. It was more like a small voice saying, people do not behave like that. You should not respond this way. The harder question I had to ask myself was, why does it matter so much to me that he responds differently? Because when I walk into a moment already needing it to go in a certain way, I'm not really with the person in front of me anymore. And this is where I realized that is applicable on other situations and all relationships. I'm trying to move him somewhere, and a child and other people feels that on some level. We all feel that. The gem in this journey was what Luca kept showing me. He's been one of my greatest teachers in life. What I experience in him is the very deep need for authenticity. Things have to be real for him, or they do not make sense. He will not simply do a thing because that is what people do, and often he cannot. He will not hide what he is feeling just to make the room more comfortable. That challenged me enormously because I had to learn to steady myself enough to stay with him. If he was angry, could I be with his anger without needing it to stop that instant? If he was disappointed, could I let him be disappointed? Could I change my words instead of trying to change how he felt? Could I see the thing I was so sure was important might not be that important after all. And most of all, could I stay connected to him while we found our way through? Because at some point, connection became more important to me than getting the behavior I wanted that exact moment. And what I did not expect was, in learning to stay with him, I would keep meeting myself, the other side of the same pattern. This is what I mean. Where Luca doesn't so easily adapt himself just to make everyone else comfortable, I realized that I had become extremely good at doing exactly that. I could adapt to almost anyone. I could read the room. I could sense what was needed and quietly become it. I could set my own needs aside without anyone noticing, least of all me. For most of my life, I did not even see this as adapting. I thought it was simply who I am. But underneath it was something very human and very old. We need connection. From the very beginning of our lives, connection is safety. So we learn early what keeps it. Maybe I should stay easy. Maybe I should not be angry. Maybe I should not ask for too much. Maybe I should say yes when I mean no. Maybe I should become the version of myself that is easiest for other people to love. My accomplishments secure validation. And when we do that often enough, it stops feeling like a choice. It becomes automatic. We can lose touch with the simplest question of all. What is exactly true for me? What is it that I want? So I started to see two sides of one pattern. The one side, I try to change the other person so that I can feel all right. The other side, I give too much of myself away so that the other person stays close to me. The one says, you need to change so that I can stay comfortable. And the other says, I need to disappear a little so that you will stay. Neither one is freedom. Both of them take me out of my own alignment. Both of them take me out of my true power. And I want to be clear, because this is where people can hear the wrong thing. I'm not saying we should never adjust for another person. Relationships ask for adjustment. Families ask for compromise. We need boundaries and respect and real awareness of how we affect the people around us. And there's a difference between guiding a child and needing him to become who you have decided he should be. That difference has become one of the most important things in my life, and I still get it wrong. There are still moments where my old conditioning arrives before my awareness does. Luca does something, and something in me jumps straight to no, no, no. We need to fix this. But now, more often, I catch it. I feel the urgency in my body. I notice it, and I ask myself a few quiet questions. What is actually needed here? Is this really about him? Is there a real boundary that needs to be held? Or am I uncomfortable because this does not match the picture of how it should look for me? And can I stay connected while we work through it? Now, more often when I'm triggered by him, by someone else, and in that internal crisis, I am able to witness and stay calm without resisting. And that makes him feel safe. And then he can co regulate easier. That is not about being passive. It does not mean accepting every behavior. It means I try to begin from connection and stay in connection with myself instead of control, where the work begins. And I think that is the quiet gift of this whole journey. Luca keeps bringing me back to what is real, not perfect behavior, not a perfect parenting, but to being more honest about what is happening inside me, because the work always starts within. Before I ask, how did I get this person to change? I can ask, what is happening in me right now? What am I afraid of? What am I trying to protect? What am I giving away from myself to keep this connection? Or am I asking someone else to give themselves away so that I can feel safe? And somewhere between those two is a far more powerful place to stand. A place where I can stay with myself and stay with you at the same time. Where I do not have to leave myself to love you. And I do not have to control you to feel safe. I can meet you exactly where you are and still remember where I am. That is what my journey with my son keeps teaching me. Again and again, the work starts within. If something in this stirred you and you sense there is a pattern of your own asking to be met, that is the work I sit beside people through Journey to Thrive. There is no rush. Everyone has got their own timing. A new beginning does not need to be big to be real. There are a method and a structure that you can keep going back to and apply to challenges in future. Empower yourself. Empower your future.